So it's 5:30. I'm calling this meeting to order at 5:30. First, a reminder that meetings of the Select Board are meetings conducted in public. They are not meetings of the public. Nonetheless, members of the public shall be afforded reasonable opportunities to express opinions about matters conducted by the Select Board, so long as order is maintained. The rules for public comment are: at the conclusion of the Select Board discussion on an agenda item, but before any action is taken, there may be 10 minutes afforded to public comment. Comments made by the public must be addressed to the chair, to the Select Board as a whole, and not to any individual members of the Select Board or members of the public. Members of the public must be acknowledged by the chair before speaking. If a member of the public has already spoken on a topic, they shall not be recognized again until others have first been given the opportunity to comment. Order and decorum shall be maintained throughout the meeting. Personal, impertinent, threatening, or profane remarks will not be tolerated. For those who are participating via Zoom, please note that chat is not an appropriate avenue for public comment. All public comments must be made verbally when acknowledged by the chair. Please silence all cell phones, and a reminder to all that this meeting is being recorded and will appear on the internet. All right, so are there any adjustments to the agenda?
I have one,
Okay.
please. Can we add under unfinished business, town meeting items?
And I have a motion to approve the minutes of December 28th, 2022.
Sure.
Second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of December 28th, 2022. Has anybody seen anything?
Good man.
I didn't see anything. No changes? Okay. So, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Moving on to public comments on items not on the agenda. Are there public comments in the room on items not on the agenda? No. Are there public comments online, Mr. Fairman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, this is sort of a point of order. At about 5:25, when I hooked up to the meeting, there was the video was on, but the audio had not been turned on. And there was a person who had his back to the camera, in fact, was standing right in front of it, who was addressing a quorum of our select board, which of course fell under the open meeting law. So I'm asking, what was that about?
I'm not sure.
That was about the cameraman telling us that he had been at meetings before. It was not.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Or
Thank you.
it might have been me before 5:30, because I know that I saw it. I was standing in front of the camera and just saying that I came home to a bunch of dead ducks.
Yeah.
But it wasn't 5:30 yet, so.
Oh.
Yeah. Also telling me not to yawn. Yes, Mr. Fairman.
Yes, apologies if I misconstrued the agenda. All I could, the gender, all I could see was a jacket, which I saw had a Carhartt logo. So now that we've taken care of that, you probably are aware of this, but just so the public are aware, VLCT are lobbying the legislature to extend Acts 77, 78, and 79, which currently sunset January 15th, which modify the Vermont open meeting law and town meeting procedures in the light of the COVID pandemic.
Yeah.
So it is. So as I said, you probably already know this, but I'm letting the public know because we may, in fact, not be having an in-person town meeting this year either, although earlier there was discussion that we probably would. So it'll be interesting to see how quickly they get it through, but I see that last year the governor signed it on January 18th. So chances are it will get done. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we did. There was actually an article in the it was either a Reformer or Vermont Digger that I saw myself, and I think there are some aspects of the current law that are good. As far as town meeting is concerned, I believe we are still on track to have an in-person meeting, whether that law goes into effect or not.
We are committed.
Yeah, it's a little late for them to be trying to change the rules. So we're gonna march on. Go ahead.
That having been said, if the Department of Health of the state of Vermont were to advise us otherwise, we would certainly take that under advisement, yes.
Absolutely. Mr. Murphy?
Good evening. Just wanted to update you, since that was brought up, is that it's the first bill we passed out of government operations today. It should be out of the House this week and over to the Senate and probably on the governor's desk. And basically, it just continues what's a temporary order and gives towns and public meetings the option that they currently have now,
Okay.
which is either meet in public, hybrid, or in person. It's up to the choice is yours.
All right, so broader than town meeting, it would eliminate the need for meetings to have a warned physical place.
That's right.
Okay. That's good to know. Mr. Fairman, do you have your hand back up?
Yes, I do. I just wanted to mention something really remarkable that I have just seen. Representative Marucki somehow has managed to get back or ahead to summertime Vermont. How does he do that?
It's the magic he has.
It's a Zoom option, I think. Either that or he really is magical. All right, is there any other public comment in the room on items not on the agenda? Anything that the select board wants to add? Any other hands up? I don't see any more hands. All right, moving on to the warrants to the treasurer.
I'll make a motion to approve the warrants to the treasurer as presented upon completion of review and to execute them.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded to approve and execute the warrants upon completion of review. Karen?
Payroll warrant dated January 13, 2023, in the amount of $16,350.94. Standard payroll.
Okay.
Any questions? All good?
That's good.
Accounts payable dated December 31st, 2022 through January 13, 2023, in the amount of $59,545.32. Another small warrant.
Maple Leaf Carpentry?
Let me look that one up.
It's
for
not
you.
for very much. Just don't remember seeing that before.
Yeah, I don't recall, but let me just find it for you. I'm sure it's 408, which would be water, so it was, oh, you know what that's for? It's for the dam. So there's a meter for water usage on the dam.
Which dam?
This one here.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so
Okay.
MVP Healthcare?
that is our medical insurance for employees.
That's what I thought.
And VMCT, that's just for $20. VMCTA?
That is for Kim, for her notary.
Oh, okay.
They had to take a class too, in order to keep their notaries.
Oh,
So
they did.
John and Kim are both notaries. I did not do the class, because I was in another class.
Fair. The two classes at once.
Yeah.
I can understand that.
Yeah, I had to let something go.
And place sense is presumably the library.
PlaySense is the consultant working on the town plan amendment.
Any other questions on the warrant? Okay, so hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, town manager's report?
Oh, right. I did prepare one this week. So all this paperwork. Welcoming and engaging communities cohort. Jonathan and I were in a session yesterday. They do have the survey results for Putney. So 100 surveys were sent out to employees, boards and commissions, elected officials, appointed officials, and 37 people responded. So I do have,
That's probably pretty good, I would imagine.
yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, for the most part. So there's 8 communities doing this cohort together. And so what they do is gather certain data and then they look at it. We're all looking at it. And yeah, so it's interesting. I will share it with Eileen in Equity and Inclusion. So, and if anyone else wants to see it, by all means, it's, you know.
So who was the survey sent out to?
So employees, town employees, boards and commissions, committees, elected officials. So,
But I didn't,
We might have gotten,
would we gotten it?
you would, yeah, back in November.
yeah, I think I did, yeah. I mean, I'm not entirely certain, but I get a lot of surveys, but I'm pretty sure.
It would have come from the town clerk's email address,
Yeah,
because he was in charge of getting them out,
so I vaguely remember that.
so.
No memory at all. That doesn't mean it didn't happen.
It's okay, what I'll do is I'll send you the results and maybe it'll jog your memory.
Maybe. Good point.
So anyway, yeah, so it's been a good process, a lot of conversation around it, and here's question 2. So Abundant Sun will come to a select board meeting to go over the work that they're doing with the municipalities and where they want to bring, you know, the communities to the next level. So if that's something this board is interested in, she's actually in Portugal, but she can zoom in. But they're willing to do that with all municipalities.
Does she live in Portugal?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's the name of London Sun. Not
So,
applicable here, that's for sure.
so we can decide on that
Okay.
at a later date. Vermont Council on Rural Development, Step 3 is Tuesday, January 17th at Next Stage. Doors open at 6 p.m., session starts at 6:30. And this is the task forces to develop housing solutions, revitalize Putney's downtown, and develop a community center. If anyone is still interested, they are more than welcome to come. So I just want to make that announcement. I attended and Cass attended the First Amendment audit webinar
I did too.
presented by BLCT.
Yeah.
And you did too, Charlie?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Was.
Yes. And then I also did town meeting 2023, the warning and model articles today. So.
Ditto.
Yeah, we'll talk about that when we get down to town meeting if you want to share information, okay?
Well, it's pretty much procedure.
Yeah, well, it's important procedure because I learned a couple things myself today, again. Town hall renovation process is moving ahead with All Seasons to update the schematic plan with new figures.
Okay.
What do you call that again, Josh? when it's not,
Which, a repricing or, I mean, what,
yeah. So the contractor looks at it and they,
construction manager, they would be acting as a construction manager and then get an estimator
okay,
to do it.
yeah. So that's moving ahead. And, once we have an update, I'll bring it to the board and then we'll have to decide, And Putney Historical Society will have to meet too, because they're working with us for the renovation. Good news, Lisa Pakazian reached out to Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation, and the town was awarded a Community Facilities Technical Assistance Grant to cover the cost of the architect and the contractor thus far.
Nice.
It's just like $5,000.
That's great.
So I'm like ecstatic and very thankful for Lisa for doing that. She like jumped on it, and so it's all positive. COTS, the online land records system, has been compromised. So due to a cyber attack on December 26, 2022, the company is working with the FBI to retrieve their system.
Oh, man.
They had it for a short period of time and then they lost it again. So COTS has reassured the town clerk's office no data has been compromised. But for the time being, anyone that needs to do title research has to make an appointment with the town clerk's office, or the town clerk is scanning documents and sending them to certain people.
Okay.
So I don't know when that'll be resolved, but I just letting this board know that that has happened. It's unfortunate. Hopefully they can resolve it quickly.
And just so, I mean, the vast majority of the data that they work with for us is all public data. So it's more about creating problems than it is about loss of data that would be privacy related or otherwise.
Yeah, it's basically accessibility online.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, no,
So-
it's sort of a functional problem rather.
Yeah, it's an inconvenience. I think people are getting used to it, so now.
It's a great system.
Yeah, it is. Let's see, public meetings at a private residence. Josh, you had asked that question for me to reach out to VLCT. So their recommendation, they're not in violation of Vermont open meeting law if they meet at a private residence, as long as the public can be accommodated, okay? They do recommend that all public bodies should be meeting in a location accessible and capable of hosting the public. So,
Yeah, I think one of the reasons I asked about it was the liability issue. Whether-
right,
And I mean, our liability coverage is very good, so I'm guessing that might not be an issue for us, but
well, I asked about that question and, they didn't say anything about liability.
okay.
But, best practices too is what we need to consider.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we have town hall, we have the fire station, we have the library,
Yeah,
so. And rules of procedure basically, dictate where you're gonna meet anyway. So, all boards and committees should have signed the rules of procedure. So that we know where they're meeting, what time and what day.
Right.
And I know some committees have a hard time scheduling, so I overlooked that a little bit, but
So can I just be reminded, at the last meeting or 2 meetings or whatever, we talked about all the committees needing to meet in person, that they needed to have a physical meeting location, but, right?
Yeah.
But if this law is signed in, then we can still have the option of doing remote meetings or hybrid meetings or in-person meetings or
Yes.
whatever.
Yes.
Just wondering.
Yeah, and we've always been able to do hybrid meetings.
Right.
We haven't had the technology, but we've always been legally allowed to have hybrid meetings. The remote only piece is really the new
The
new
COVID,
piece.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's a really good option for a lot of these ad hoc committees. The one issue that we do have is that the town only has two
Right, right.
Zoom accounts, so
Right.
Right.
that's,
And there's a lot of meetings happening right now.
yeah.
We try to accommodate the best we can. Let's see, so new office hours for town hall. Town hall is open Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. until 4:30 p.m. Closed on Friday.
Okay.
That's my public service announcement.
All right. We have a hand up, Swift.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm that this is within what we just talked about, that I think EIAC is gonna start having, if we're required to have in-person meetings, I think we're gonna start meeting at the diner. Eleni might join the committee, and we're having our next meeting at the diner. That's seeming like that is public accessible, right?
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's not gonna, as long as Eleni's okay with it and it's not going, she's not gonna require everybody to buy a cup of coffee. I mean, I think that's fine.
All right, thanks.
The office is closed on Monday in observance of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And I will be in Springfield all day tomorrow for Leadership Southeast Vermont.
Okay. I just wanted to follow up on the First Amendment audit webinar. They are happening around the state. Brattleboro got one the day before New Year's, the Friday before the New Year's weekend. I wasn't there, so I didn't get to be on YouTube, but it did get put up on YouTube. Brattleboro was mostly fine. They got mad because they weren't allowed to be in one spot. And it even said on the door, authorized personnel only, but they chose to use that as their clickbait. So it is a real thing. So don't be surprised if someone shows up with a camera.
Right. I've already spoken to the staff,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
because it is a public building
It's
and
open.
It's
they
open
can
and
be
they
here.
can- yeah.
So,
All right. You're
I'm
all
good.
with that. Is there any
Yes.
public comment on the town manager's report online? Mr. Fairman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, regarding that question of whether meetings under the Vermont Open Meeting Law can be held on private property, the fundamental question here is that both statute and case law in Vermont state categorically that meetings are public. So that means even if it's at the diner or in someone's house, if the public show up, they have to be allowed to attend the meeting. I have a question to the town manager. What is Abundant Sun?
Abundant Sun is a consultant for diversity and inclusion.
I see. And my understanding is that the consultant is a resident and presumably a citizen of the country of Portugal.
I don't know that I don't know that for a fact. I know she's in Portugal.
Okay, this is something that we should check into because doing business with a consultant in Portugal means we are doing business under, the question becomes, are we doing business under American law or under European Union and Portuguese law or under international law? It's a very interesting situation and we should know what the basis of it is. And also perhaps given that there are very different traditions in terms of civics in Europe than in this country. Why would we be consulting a consultant from a Portuguese consultant about affairs in this country? So I'm asking these questions sort of rhetorically at this time, but I'll raise them later when our town manager has had a chance to get some answers. Thank you.
I can say that this consultant was at VLCT Town Fair. So whether she winters in Portugal, I don't know. And
But she's part of, I mean, you're working with an organism. This is organized by VLCT, is that correct? The groups of towns?
yes.
So I would assume, just an assumption, I would assume that they did their homework as far as Mr. Fairman's question is concerned, but.
And we're not paying this consultant. We're working with them. There's no money being exchanged.
Between the town of Putney and the consultant.
Right.
Presumably there is between VLCT or some other
I don't know that.
organization.
I don't know that. All I know is that it was a good opportunity to join and work on diversity and inclusion. So that's where it's at, worldwide.
Okay, are there public comments in the room on the town manager's report? No, does anybody on the select board have anything to add? All right, moving on to boards, committees, and commissions. We have the planning commission, town plan update and request for funding, which is Pip and Sue.
Can I just make a quick comment before you start? I just want to let you know that I sent you that information late. So please be specific when you're explaining this.
I'll help you out with
Visual.
a visual. Not you. Now you.
I have a copy.
You don't have a copy of the cover letter. See if I got another one here.
This one right here? Oh no, the cover letter. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi. We're
Thank you, Sue.
Vanessa Vadim and Sue Coakley are also on the planning commission, and we may have an opportunity to hear from them also.
Okay.
I think the easiest way to do this may be an expeditious way to just, I'm going to read my letter. You can follow along, and everybody will remember the same thing. So the Putney Planning Commission is well underway with the revision of the town plan, which expires at the end of 2023. We're working with Middlebury Natural Resources consultant Amy Sheldon and consultants Rod Francis and Brandy Saxton from PlaySense, was mentioned earlier, planning in Windsor. And an ambitious plan has been developed by Planning Commissioner Sue Coakley for outreach to the community during this process. And I've attached a calendar, your foldout here, that is the draft outline of the public outreach program. And on it are also some dates that are related to the adoption process. So that's there in pretty colors for you to look at. There are 2 select board public hearings that we want to just give you the heads up about. Those of you that have been through this before will remember the process. State law mandates that communities of over 2,500 residents have a process with 1 planning commission public hearing and 2 subsequent select board hearings. So the middle page of your document is a calendar that we prepared to help guide us for the required warning periods. It's very, very fussy, the process of plan adoption with mandated 30-day periods between certain activities and a recurring 15-day warning period before a hearing. The Planning Commission's aim is to have open access to the draft documents and the mapping as they are developed, with the intent of working through as many issues as possible during the writing process before presenting the plan at public hearings. While some editing may happen based on responses at the hearings, and the draft calendar will accommodate this, it's hoped that this open development of the plan will bring the big issues up well before the final hearings and allow for a timely adoption of the plan before it expires. This open process is also an invitation to the Selectboard to read our work as it's being developed, so that you don't get any big surprises when the Planning Commission has had a public hearing, approved their draft version of the plan, and given it to you to represent to the public. So it'd be great if we all knew what we were looking at as it was being developed. No big surprises is the goal. The major elements of this public engagement process are publicly accessible meetings with live streaming and video recording for later viewing, and web hosting for the draft documents with the collation of public comments. In PlaceSense, the planning consultants have done this type of web hosting for other towns' revisions of plans and bylaws, and the services are outside of the scope of the current state planning grant funding, and we are requesting additional funds. And I've done a preliminary budget here that totals $3,000. I'm going to invite the other members of the Planning Commission to tell you about a couple of extras that didn't make it into my document here, and we may end up with our hat out for a little bit more. So I'll give it to Sue and then Vanessa.
Sure. Thank you, Pip. Were there any questions for Pip?
Does anybody have any questions so far?
Okay. Great. My first time in front of you. Thank you. It's nice to meet you all, other than my nomination and selection to do this work. At my first meeting of the year, we met with the commission, we talked about how we might engage the public more broadly. And I presented to them a plan about how we could accomplish getting folks to provide input as we are drafting the plan, so by the time we got to the hearing, it reflected those perspectives as best we could, as well as meeting the requirements of the state law to be able to get the funding that we receive from the state. So what you have here is a quick overview of what we're trying to achieve with that. Really getting broad community support for and interest in the plan, and fostering for diverse participation in the process so that different interests are presented. We hope that the resulting plan will reflect that there are different points of view in the town, which is something we actually embrace here in Putney, I've come to see, and that will be part of the guidance in the plan. And that hope we build social capital for moving forward what the plan suggests that we do. So to achieve that, our strategy is maintaining a very transparent process, and that will be using a web page that PlaceSense will be hosting that is interactive and will be able to allow people to sign up, to receive notices, as well as to take down information, as well as to provide comments, and all that be managed by PlaceSense. And we will be doing outreach to actively encourage participants in the very different ways that we have. There'll be online opportunities as well as public meetings, surveys, and that kind of thing. We hope to keep people educated, people understand what the town plan is for and what it isn't, so they can appropriately contribute to that and reflect a point of view. We'll build on, and this is really important, on other research that's been done. The VCRD process, Our Future Putney, has provided tremendously helpful input that we were using to launch forward into the town plan, but also the library survey and other work that's been done. So we'll have a web page. We will have 5 public meetings. That's what our current schedule that Pip just handed out to you. You'll see 5 public meetings that are designed to be able to get comment on a few sections at a time, but we can't do the whole town plan in 1 or 2 meetings. And that'll track with our drafting so that we're ready in mid-July to have a final that can go to hearing that the Planning Commission will have in August. We'll be doing direct outreach. We'll actually be reaching out to people who would be interested in the topics that we're talking about, invite them to come as best we can, including the VCRD task groups that have been set up on 3 topics, encourage them to come and be in our discussions that are relevant. We'll send out this email notice once we have this list. And just to comment on the list that I think might be of interest to you, in talking with the town manager about email lists, we found that there really isn't one that town has right now. And one could be used for multiple things, for different committees and different processes. So we'll endeavor to create this mailing list in a way that when people sign up, they're signing up to receiving official notices from the town. The Planning Commission will be using it for our work, but we'll give it to the town manager to be able to be useful for other processes. So we hope that is helpful to the town beyond what the Planning Commission is doing. And we plan to do monthly briefings for you all to keep you informed and any questions you have. And there were 3 things I wanted to suggest that the select board can do to help. One is encourage people to participate. We'll have something in the town meeting notice, as well as we'll have some information at the town meeting itself. We have a budget for communications, and that's really important because most of the work is volunteer other than the work that PlaySense is doing. But we do need some further budget for this outreach. And then there'll be this important topic of coordinating the select board hearings with the Planning Commission's work, and I think Pip has provided a framework for that. So it's robust, it's a big reach, but we're excited to do it. Any questions? I'm
just looking at the schedule and it's pretty ambitious.
Aggressive.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're
Yes.
you're all gun ho. You've got some momentum behind you. That's good.
Yes,
Good.
it is ambitious, but it will also make it efficient.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Right.
if you have to get through it. So, but we are getting going and having the budgetary support so that we can do these communications will be, and the other things that Pip has mentioned will be very, very helpful.
It's an ongoing problem for us always to get people to engage as much as we might like them to, particularly in something like the town plan that, as central as it is to the function of the town, feels tangential to a lot of people. Do you have a sense beyond your excitement about it that you're likely to get the interest that you're hoping for?
I believe we will. I mean, we have our bar is, being able to accommodate 50 people, maybe a few more. So we're not looking at what VCRD was able to accomplish with 250 people. But because we'll be grouping topics together in such a way, and we reach out to people who have interest, we believe that we might be getting something like, 50 people who might come and participate, but also having the online way for people to provide comments, that's never been done before,
right.
For the town plan. But of course, in this day and age, this is something we can do. And so we're hoping that will broaden the participation. And it's also important, as my fellow commissioner Vanessa reminds us, is that not everybody's online. And so it's important to have people provide ways to participate. And we will be endeavoring to do things by paper, though anything that comes in by paper is we have to personally take it and work with it. The town manager will collect it for us, or the clerk, and then we will have to take it and use it. It's a little harder to do, but it probably won't be that large, and I think we can do it, and then we include everybody as best we can. So we'll see. I think the bar has been raised by VCRD. People are interested, topics, people got excited. So we'll see if that also sort of changed the feeling about being in meetings.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's great. I think it's been a perennial problem for us, and I'm hopeful that we can shift that equation.
Yeah. Well, we'll learn a lot. Our first meeting is the 23rd of February at Next Stage, because we can record the meeting there, and we know we'll learn a lot doing the first meeting. So. Anything else?
Not yet.
Okay. Yeah.
So in that vein of trying to reach as many people as possible, and the fact that not everyone is online, one of the things that is missing, I think, is an all-town mailing. And also one of the ways, I'm going to combine two things here. One of the ways I think to get more people excited is I think that with the ARPA funds also needing to be addressed publicly and on a timeline, people are, I think, more likely to get excited about the ARPA and the degree to which we can coordinate some of these outreach and mailings. I think that both groups will get better feedback and more robust input from community. So one of the things missing, I think, is a basic survey with a few kind of maybe structured questions and some very open questions. But I think that it really, every resident should have the opportunity to respond with their vision of the future for this town, both as far as ARPA money and especially here now is the town plan. My understanding is that for a basic small like postcard type mailing, it's over $500. Mm-hmm. I'm estimating that at $700, we could do a single mailing that would have a survey, one-page survey from ARPA and a one-page survey from the Planning Commission. And that would cost maybe $700. That's again, it's an estimate. But that both of those, the PC and ARPA both really have to be able to say that we at least tried to reach every member of the community and give them the opportunity to respond. So I think that a public mailing to every address is imperative. And so I would ask that about $700 approximate be added for a single in order to one, not overwhelm residents and to keep the budget lower is a single mailing for $700.
That's a great idea. I was also, just as you were talking, remembering that we are going to be mailing town reports to every household, right? So I'm wondering if we could maybe slip those into the pages.
I don't really want to slip a page into, because it'll come out. But I have let the Planning Commission know that I will save the back inside cover if they can pull something together, and I will put it
and bind it in?
It'll be on,
okay.
Yes, it'll be right in the town report.
My concern, we definitely want to do that because again, I think every opportunity, it isn't this or that, it's and all the way.
Yeah.
That when people are looking at that, they aren't necessarily going through to the very end and looking that it'll get missed. And I think that both ARPA and the town plan are really essential and deserve, their own mailing, even if it's combined. That at least it's that.
So when we did the VCRD mailing, which was a little postcard, $683, it went out to 05346. So that covered Dummerston, Westminster, and so other surrounding towns. So if we want to just focus on Putney, we might be able to reduce that cost. Yeah. It might take a little extra work, but
you're talking about actual. That was a postcard.
Yes.
You're not talking about.
I'm talking. I think that you would have to have a page. It could possibly be one page. One side would be Planning Commission Town Plan, and the other side would be ARPA.
Yeah.
We could probably get away with with one double-sided page, but it would need its own, an envelope and its own.
And then how do you propose to collect them? Would you have like a box here?
They would arrive here,
They arrive
in
here,
a
okay.
box here, and we would take them from there.
Okay.
Complicated, of course, by then having to divide between and the planning commission. And another thing that would, as long as we are doing, and I, doubled again with the report that's going out, that I think every meeting that we are at, we will be gathering email addresses for the purposes that Peg described. Any of the mailings that go out, that survey that goes out would have something that says, would you be willing to add your email address for town hall purposes? So it's just, yet another, trying to get as much in there as possible.
And as I'm sure you've thought about, there are a number of those lists not held by the town specifically, but that have accumulated over time. So certainly finding access to those would be helpful.
Yeah, I was questioning whether we could simply take the email lists that had been gathered by VCRD. And I don't think that's a legit, you have to be able to ask people. Mike Costco is being kind of given the master list as the chair for the VCRD. So it's really kind of up to him, the ways in which, he feels comfortable sharing it. And probably, I think what would happen there is an email that goes out that says, can you be added to a master list?
So you want to opt in.
And that's, I think, to your point as well, all of these other lists
If we can access them and go that route as well.
ask, just it's a matter of going out and asking.
And the organizations, Putney School and Landmark, some of the bigger organizations might be willing to do the same thing.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely a good point about not sending it to people that didn't ask for it.
Well,
Questions?
I do have somebody online, but Katy, could you?
yeah, I just wanted to say that, but do you have something you need to say?
Well, we have a guest here that needs to be probably leaving around 6:30.
Oh, okay. We'll try to wrap it up. Swift?
I just wanted to ask the time of the meeting, the first planning commission meeting. Just like saying that more loudly with more publicity.
Our date for our first public meeting is February 23rd, 6:30 in the evening at Next Stage.
Great, thank you. And just another plug or something of possibly, it would increase double the cost of a mailing, but including postage, you'll get so many more back. You'll get twice as many back if we can include a self-addressed envelope.
Thank you, Swift.
Thanks. Mr. Fairman?
Madam Chair, I congratulate the Planning Commission on their planning for public engagement. I simply would take the liberty of adding, don't forget social media. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Social media.
Don't forget social media.
I will note that I've already reached out to Putney Cares to see if Ruby there could help, and she's offered her services, so thank you
Okay,
for
awesome.
social media.
Nice.
I just wanted to say that part of this thing about email addresses and the town, this is one of those things that will be issued if we, will be addressed if we upgrade our website
Right.
so that it has the capacity to hold on to those emails and organize outgoing and incoming correspondence. That's a typical web service would provide that, but ours doesn't currently, but a new one will.
Right.
Okay.
Which is in the budget for 24.
24?
All right. In the interest of time, is there, I don't want to cut anybody off, but I do want to wrap it up. So are there any other comments online? Any comments in the room?
Are we voting on
Do we need to
money
vote
for
on-
this now or
Is this
not?
just gonna be
Or do
part
we
of it?
not, we don't need to?
I can put it in the budget.
For the 23-24 budget you're talking
Right.
about? Okay, so, because some of those expenses would be incurred before.
We need them, yeah.
Right, so, but we could potentially, That would be up to the
Yeah.
financial director to figure out how that would work, but
So do we need a motion on it or not?
no, it doesn't, I don't
It's
think
under
so.
5,000, so,
Vanessa?
You have ARPA funds that were,
Yes,
right.
yeah,
That's true.
that's a
Yeah.
possibility, yeah.
We still need a motion for that though, but that's a good point. But
But we
we're
don't
good
need to do that.
we're good for today.
Yeah.
All right. So there's no other comments or questions. I'd like to move on to the DB fiber status report. Thank you.
I'll take off my mask to see me. I'm Steve and John. I have attended your meetings before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for your patience.
Yeah, I regret I do have interesting engagement going on later on. Is it better if I have to keep popping up and down? And I think this would be better. I'd like to pass one of those around to everybody. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak and report to you regarding DB Fiber. I hoped that we'd have enough time for a good exchange of questions and answers, but I certainly can come back at any time. This is my role as chair of the board, and I take it on with great pleasure. What has happened since we last met? I remember I attended remotely a meeting when Mike and Cor were here, and they brought up the issue about ARPA funds. I don't need to get into that now, but what has happened since then is that we actually have lit up, connected our first 4 customers. And we did that as a pilot group prior to the end of the year, like right on December 31st, because we want to make sure that we can become certified as an ISP, Internet Service Provider, with the FCC so that we can make our customers, avail of our customers the opportunity to be subsidized by the something ACP program of the FCC. It's $30 a month for the fee. I should remember what that says. Anyway, that probably won't get everybody there, but it will help. And some of the other towns have voted money to make sure that when the internet is available from DB Fiber to those to people in town who might not be able to afford it, they've donated money allocated presumably from their ARPA funds, although it's from their general fund. Mm-hmm. So most recently, for example, just to keep you apprised of things, Halifax, Marlborough, Guilford, Vernon has a town warning, and Stamford has a town warning. And Wardsboro are all, anyway, Brookline is considering donating. There are a number of towns that are donating, because one thing that'll make this go faster is if we have more money. But it's mostly a concern about the affordability, because there's no subsidy for connecting people. And we're giving a free connection at a 400-foot length. But beyond that, our business model can't sustain itself to make a free connection for anybody at any distance from the power pole. So that's something to keep in mind. That's the big news. We did get our $21.9 million for construction. That will get us to, I brought this here, I'm sitting so I don't have to fumble with this. That's going to get us to past 4,913 locations. 3,907 unserved or underserved. You see, at the beginning of our project, this money is going to those places where there are the most people unserved. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately for Putney, you are considered pretty well served. We have a charter that shows 17% of your locations are unserved or underserved. And of course, by that standard, most people would want to have better than 25.3, which is what I pay for but never get from Copperline. Let's not get me off my tangent there. But anyway, this will cover 513 miles, about 483 plus some what we call spine. We have some connections we have to make that are not going to be initially distributing to individual homes, but really providing a backbone of resiliency in rings, 3 rings in the 24-town district. That grant application covers maybe 5,000, we hope. Well, we applied for 5,500, but we didn't get all of that. But the goal is the 7,253 locations we have in the 24 towns. So we're going to get to like 4,900 of them with this first grant. And, that leaves us a way to go. But we do have some other possible funding sources coming up. You may be aware of the IIJA, the Internet Jobs, not Internet, what is it? Infrastructure and Jobs Bill. That's guaranteeing the state of Vermont $100 million plus additional monies for adjustment of the mapping that determines who's underserved and unserved. You may all go individually with your address to the website for the FCC and actually register, verify or complain about what your situation is. We don't encourage everybody to do that unless they have a great deal of patience with such internet databases, because when I tune in, it says I'm covered. And that's because theoretically I am covered by satellite and by wireless detail. Well, that's not possible, but that's what the government says. And you have to go down a bit to get to that. So if you want to know more about that, Cora could follow up with some information and direction about that. We will cover all 24 towns. Right now, the only timeline we have is with this first building build out of about 12 to 15 months. So, just to be publicly transparent, it's going to involve Halifax in years 23 through 25, because we don't connect the whole town at one time. We have to go by clusters, logical engineering clusters of 200 customers or so. That's called a fiber service area. And in this 24 town project, we have 157 fiber service areas designed, engineered, and that design has been approved, by the way, by the Vermont Community Broadband Board. That's why they gave us the funding, initial funding. So if we looked at Putney, you'd find that in Putney, we have 7 phases now over time, and I can't be specific about when those phases start or end, but in Putney, you're going to be having 1,050 people connected in stage or phase 5, and you'll have 110 more connected in stage 6. And that'll get pretty close to the numbers we have in terms of your number of locations on the grid, occupied locations. So I think with that, I'll let you have at me with some questions for a few minutes. And I just would say that the priority for how these things are laid out is primarily and first the percentage of unserved people in those locations in those towns. Second, so the first 6 towns are really Stamford, Reedsboro, Halifax, Marlboro, and Wardsboro. Did I mention 6? If I didn't get to 6, maybe Whitingham is in there. They're not as poor as the rest of us, but the rest of those other towns. So that's it, and this timeline will go through 2023 through 25, 24. We hope that this money will carry us through to mid to end of 24, and then at 24 we'll start on the rest of phase 3, then we'll be on to 4, 5, and 6 in the subsequent years. I wish I could tell you it's happening faster, but we can only build 30 miles a month, even if everything goes well. That's what's possible on considering the power grid and the way the land goes. In total, we'll have over 1,000 miles of fiber in the end with the project. This is a big deal, and it'll take a lot of more volunteer time and effort by Cora and representatives from other towns as well to oversee the situation, the expenditures and the budget. And you've got a copy of the annual report and the budget previously as board members. So, questions?
Yeah, is there a end phase in mind to run fiber to everyone, even if they're technically served?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the problem there is that the grant money goes to connect the people that are unserved and underserved. The people on the way The design is for universal coverage, okay? Now, whether we can afford to build to the, there is some possibility in the end that we'll have to be borrowing money to get to everybody to fulfill our mission of universal coverage, availability.
But in the end, the Xfinities of the world will have some competition.
Oh, well, yes, we will. That's, we are going to be in a bit of a, competitive situation here, and we are going to be publicly held accountable to live up to what we say and to make sure it's affordable to everybody. And we already are in negotiations with Equal Access to Broadband, a nonprofit organization in Vermont that is set up to help subsidize people. There's the connection cost, then there's the monthly fees. And we can't be we are at the disadvantage because any of our business plan, and unless it's proprietary, is open to public scrutiny. So we have to be upfront with everybody. This is what we're charging. We're not making a deal with you and then when you call next month, you're going to get a better deal. That's not the way we can work at DB5. And I think most of Vermont's fed up with that, but I'm just saying that we understand. That's and I think we ask for the public's indulgence in appreciating that situation too, and supporting it as a public entity, that you own and control. So, question?
Other questions?
So I have one question. The Southern Vermont cable spine or network that was left on Putney Mountain, whatever happened with that?
Well, now you put a wrinkle in it because you said the Southern Vermont cable, because that was a private cable company. Right. Okay. I think what you were thinking about and what we have considered is the state-owned fiber that's been installed in Putney. I think it was primarily for the purpose of the public library, the state library. I understand it's about a 12-mile link. It was the preliminary attempt by Vermont as a state to establish a fiber network throughout the state, and it didn't make it. So there is a prospect that and the PSD owns it, Public Service Department owns it, and they want to give it to us. And BB Fiber is hesitating because there are leases attached to that from CCI and so forth, and we don't want to take on a maintenance or on a complication that makes our connections vulnerable, less resilient, less dependable. So we're weighing it carefully. We're not saying yes or no, but we haven't accepted the offer to take that on as an asset because it also has concomitant responsibilities and liabilities. So that may be right, but if it's a private cable, the private cable we don't have any connection with whoever bought it. If it was Comcast. Then that's who owns it.
I knew there was something up there, and it was.
That's in our plan. Those folks are exactly. I mean, these hill spots. These places off the main drag where there isn't cable and so forth. Those are the places we're designed to put a priority on.
Yeah.
We're designed to reach all, but that's the priority in terms of when you build. And Putney will be down the line, as I said, in stage 5, 6 because of your percentage of served people. So good news, bad news. I mean, I envy you if you're connected, but
Well, I was out for 10 days, so that's a long story. Mr. Fairman?
Yes. Where is he? I'm sorry.
He's online.
Okay, he can see me though. Okay. Hi there.
Madam Chair, I am mindful that the gentleman needs to leave at 6:30. It's now 6:34, and our Putney representatives are present, so I could ask my questions after the gentleman has left to our town of Putney representatives.
Well, if they're too complicated, I can give it a try. But
they may be questions where someone will wish to get back to us with the answers.
Okay.
But let's find out. At least I'll ask the questions. The first one came up during your presentation where you referred to competition. As you are serving unserved locations, I wonder how you would have competition except for this. According to the Consolidated Communications website, they now are installing Fidium fiber in Marlborough, Wilmington, Searsburg, Dover, Wardsboro, and Stratton, which are all your towns. So you certainly do have competition there because they have, I should have mentioned Brattleboro as well. They're building out fiber throughout the area and undoubtedly intend to get some subscribers for doing it. So that was an incidental question that came up, but I have three that you wish to say something?
Yeah, let me just make sure, cut to the quick on that one. We recognize that's the case. And in fact, I would encourage anybody who is looking at waiting 2 or 3 years to get connected to our fiber to get what they can. I mean, that's competition in the real world. You know, that I'm not holding that against anybody, but I just advise people to be careful about the fine print. You know, disconnection fees, commitments for long term, which I've been connected with the parent company of Fidium and had the experience. And I know that when I change over, I'm going to pay $159 disconnection fee for phone, and I'm going to pay $159 disconnection fee for fiber. You know, that's the way it works in the private sector. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
We'll leave those questions to everybody else on
I just want to say thank you. You have been presenting to us for I don't know how many years now, and your dedication and depth of knowledge, et cetera, is truly appreciated. I can see that. That's great. I don't blame you.
This is like a gift to everybody.
You've done well.
We keep collaborating and keep working on it.
Right.
You know? And it's a permanent thing. It's not. You know, it's like the schools. It's not going to go away if it's publicly owned and authorized.
Yeah.
And
Thanks to you.
Thank you.
In large part.
Thank you.
If there are more questions, I'd be happy to note them down, and then, you know, if I can't respond to them.
Okay, sounds good. Mr. Fairman, did you have any other questions?
Yes, Madam Chair. Given that Deerfield Valley Fiber is connecting homes and businesses to broadband, I have 3 questions. First, how is Deerfield Valley Fiber connecting them to the worldwide internet via higher level internet service providers?
Okay, they're being written down. You're going to get answers.
I shall simply assume that you're taking these questions under advisement because they're coming to you out of the blue, and that's only fair. Okay, the second question is, what are the legal relationships among Deerfield Valley Fiber, ValleyNet of Royalton, EC Fiber of Royalton, and Great Works Internet of Biddeford, Maine?
Oh, I can answer one of them.
If you like. If you like, I'll send these questions via email to you, Cor.
I'd be happy to get them. I know that Great Works Internet has been hired by DV Fiber to provide the ISP services and to also manage all the customers. So, since we last met, since we last met, when Mike and I were here in July, DV Fiber hired an executive director, so that's a staff member, and also this Great Works, or GWI, whatever you call it, to do all the customer relationships, and also I think the internet. I think that's the answer to your ISP question. Also,
actually, my question is somewhat more detailed than that, and it has to do with there is confusing information on the DV Fiber website about what the relationship is between these entities. So therefore, I'm questioning specifically. Now, I'm thinking now in business terms. These are business relationships, and you have certain agreements with these organizations that each one will do something, and in return, some other organization will do something else. And I'm asking what these legal relationships are. My third question is, how will Great Works Internet of Biddeford, Maine support a Windham County fiber network?
support.
They're going to have to do all kinds of things because, think about it. I personally deal with Xfinity at the moment. But previously, I had Consolidated. If I need something, I call them up, and they have someone in the area. We see the trucks driving around who can take care of whatever it is. Now, Great Works Internet is in Biddeford, Maine, and is a long-established ISP over there since 1994, I believe, serving a bunch of towns in eastern and northern Maine. In other words, they are as far away from here and farther away than Boston, for example. So my question is simply, how are they going to provide the necessary support to keep a network running and to provide customer service and so on from Biddeford, Maine, which is their headquarters?
Mike, do you want to answer that?
We can certainly get back to you with specifics. I understand they've only been hired to construct and not maintain this network. The maintenance of the network is going to be something, I think they're going to develop something here, or else they'll farm it out and contract with somebody. But I don't think they've hired Great Works to do anything but construction right now.
Thank you for that clarification, Representative Murwicki. As I mentioned earlier, I'm offering these questions out of the blue for you to take under advisement and answer publicly at a select board meeting at a later date, which can be at your convenience. In the past, I've been asked if I would ask it's been suggested that I ask these questions privately of various people. But the Deerfield Valley Communications Union District is a public body under the Remote Open Meeting Law. And as such, the discussion of its affairs is public. And of course, the discussion of the town of Putney's affairs are public at a select board meeting, which is why I'm raising these questions here and asking for public answers in due course. Because these are fundamental issues. It goes well beyond, okay, we're going to connect everybody's home or business. The question is connecting them to what first? And second, when they need to phone someone about something, who's going to come from where to take care of it? So
well, I can tell you that the model that we've been looking at is EC Fiber, which has been going on for about 10 years in the Upper Connecticut River Valley, and they're serving 25 towns now. And I can tell you from the people I talk to there, service is much better than any of the big conglomerates because you call somebody and you actually talk to somebody you know.
Okay, I'm gonna cut this back and forth off. Mr. Fairman, do you have any other questions that you'd like to ask publicly that Cor can write down and get back to us at a later date?
No, Madam Chair, thank you. And I recall that I've offered to email the questions to Cor, and she'll do so tomorrow.
Okay, perfect.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
If I could just thank Steve for coming here. I have to go to my next meeting now too, and I have to leave, but I appreciate the time that the select board's given us, and I appreciate the questions from Howard and especially as we move forward with this to get this information out there. So good night, everybody.
All right, thank you very much.
I just wanted to say that it's my understanding that we have that GWI has been hired by DV Fiber, and in terms of the pilot program that just was set up in Reedsboro, it says GWI has worked with a construction contractor, Eustis, to hang the fiber, and then GWI is going to be the customer service team and also the ISP provider. So that's the mechanism for connecting the fiber to the World Wide Web. The earlier question. All right, as to how GWI is proposing to be in the area, to expand their services, they are going to be under contract. That's something they have to figure out. I will get better, more complete answers in writing, but that's how it's being organized right now.
Okay. Sounds like a good preliminary answer.
Yeah.
Are there any more other comments online for DV fiber? Any other comments in the room? Any more discussion among the board? All right, thank you very much for staying.
Thank you, Cora.
Answering more questions.
Happy to be here. Also, Karen mentioned there's a piece of dark fiber up on Putney Mountain. And I am on that. It's fiber to the premises that was purchased as part of the Vermont Broadband Authority, and lit up by Southern Vermont Cable. And then Comcast purchased Southern Vermont Cable. So does that mean that Comcast now owns that fiber? Possibly.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you for clarification.
Okay, thank you. So any other discussion on the board? All right, let's move on to the appointment of a Republican to the Board of Civil Authority. I will read this, I guess. We have received a written request from the Putney Republican Party to appoint a representative to the Board of Civil Authority, the BCA, pursuant to 17 VSA 2143. Upon being presented with such a request, the legislative body shall appoint from a list of names submitted, which is 17 VSA 2143. As explained by the Secretary of State's office, the new appointees will only be able to perform election duties and cannot perform other duties of JPs, Board of Abatement, marriages, or tax grievance. The current term of Justices of the Peace begins February 1, 2023 and ends January 31st, 2025. And just to explain to the public, the BCA or the Justices of the Peace do sit on the Board of Abatement. The Board of Abatement is made up of, we had one last night, it's the Select Board, the Listers, the JPs, the Town Clerk, and the Town Treasurer. The Board of Civil Authority, which hears things like grievances and, well, mostly just grievances, right? And then also sets some local election laws, is the JPs and the Select Board and the Town Clerk. Is that it? I think that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
So in this scenario, the appointed person would not sit on the Board of Abatement, and also I guess they can't do marriages and they can't sit on tax grievances. So it would only be for matters of election laws that come before the BCA. And I don't know that the rest. The issue at hand is that there should be a sufficient number of major, at least, okay, it says, if it doesn't contain at least 3 members of each major political party, and the party committee, or at least 3 voters request increased representation of the underrepresented major political party, we shall appoint that person. So we got a request from the chair of the Republican Party to appoint Daniel Hartigan to the BCA.
So I'll make a motion that we appoint Daniel Hartigan to the Board of Civil Authority.
Is there any public?
In a minute.
We'll do that in a second.
Yeah.
We'll just lay that on the table and then we can have discussion.
I move that we appoint Daniel Hartigan to the Board of Civil Authority for the term starting. This doesn't seem like the term we usually use for our JPs. Is this the correct term, Karen?
I believe so.
Apparently it is, yeah.
Okay, as long as,
We're gonna have an
It's
organizational
odd. It's
meeting
different
after.
yeah, okay. So I move that we appoint Daniel Hartigan to the Board of Civil Authority for the term starting February 1st, 2023 and expiring January 31st, 2025.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to appoint Daniel Hartigan to the Board of Civil Authority for the term starting February 1st, 2023 and expiring January 31st, 2025. I know you have a question. Is there any discussion among the board?
Yes, question. Who is the person who's submitting this nomination?
Mr. Daniel Hartigan. who
In
apparently
other
is
words,
also,
he's moving himself in.
he's the chair. I assume that there are other people on the committee that
Okay, I just, it was unclear.
were in favor of him appointing himself. Any other questions among the board?
That's unless I'm reading it wrong, that's a 2-year term, is that correct, Karen?
That is correct.
And that's what it's supposed to be.
That's what JP's normally serve for,
Yes.
I'm not sure, okay.
In our town, JPs are 2-year and their term ends January 2023.
And they all,
Sounds good.
and they all run out at the same time, right?
That is correct.
Okay. All right, Vanessa?
I'm just a little confused about how this works, since both the abatement and it sounds like the BCA, or civil sort, are comprised only of elected members?
Mostly,
Right, was
well,
there
our
anybody
town-
not
Our town
elected?
clerk is appointed now, but,
Right.
the town clerk and the town treasurer are appointed positions
Okay.
in Putney, but mostly, yes, they're all elected.
Okay, I thought it was all elected, so it just seemed a little odd to try to shove someone in an
Yeah,
all elected
It's
situation.
a statutory requirement. So it's not up to us to decide whether it can be done or not. The state has already decided that it can be done, so they're just applying through this process.
Okay.
So I'm not disagreeing with you. It is a little bit unusual. I haven't seen this before.
I never saw it.
I was just asking, was there anything?
Since it's statutory, we sort of follow it just because we follow it because they tell us we have to.
Yeah.
Right.
And I did notice that, so I asked Jonathan Johnson about what the makeup, why this was coming up, and the JPs, I guess, do run under parties.
Yes.
The select board doesn't, the listers don't, town clerk, town treasurer don't, and they're appointed anyway, so this board's makeup personally doesn't count. It would only be the JPs, and my understanding is that, and I'm gonna get this number wrong, but there are 2 progressives and the rest are Democrats.
Right.
So
There might be one in the,
I think that it could be, but I guess independents aren't really a party, so you can't, it's not a major, it's not a major party, I don't know. In any event, since each party is allowed to have at least 3 members, that means that technically the progressives could also appoint another person for that position, just so everybody's aware.
It's also clear in this writing, and this is not, I don't think, part of what you read, but let's see, where did I just see that? They will perform only BCA election duties and not, I think you might have mentioned that first, but I just wanted to be clear that that's the only role. It's not.
And it just adds another person to the.
Yeah,
Yes.
right, we're not taking
Taking somebody
Yeah.
off.
Right, so,
And I guess part of the reasoning for this is when they're doing, they're bringing ballots to voters, the members of the party, I guess, would like to have control over who they're sending to the door. I mean, that's just one reason. I'm sure there's other reasons, but that was one of the stated reasons.
am I right in assuming that it was supposed to be the party, the head of the party and 3 other people requested it? Or is that just a moot point for us?
The chair of the party committee can request it on their own. Or 3 voters can request it. So the party chair requested this.
Party chair and.
So,
Is there any difficulty, I'm fighting for the word, they only have 1 out of 3 now.
right.
Is there any violation or inappropriate, does this create a problem, and is this an uncertain situation
I
to
don't,
have 1 out of 3?
I mean, one is better than none, right?
They could come back. and say they want 2 more.
I mean, they did say that they only had one person willing to be nominated, so, and I guess they're looking to find more. I see. It's not a problem if they don't have anybody.
Okay, that's the only
Unless we refuse to do it, but we're not gonna do that, so.
And I think to your point about, or somebody's point about there being 2 progressives and possibly an independent, in theory, we don't meet that minimum for some other.
Well, that's true, yeah.
Right.
So what do you think it would be?
I was just looking at the statutory language here and wondering.
I'm guessing it would be a greater issue for us to try not to appoint a person than it would be to
Yeah.
have it be that way. And I have no interest in doing that. I'm just bringing it up that it could be more complicated if we were to try it.
Right. Vanessa.
Sorry to belabor, but since it's a position that I serve in and somebody I'll be serving with, I'm just curious about how we're going about this. I think that if I understood correctly, it's a maximum of 3, not a minimum. So having one person instead of 3, that should not be an issue at all. But I was curious, I thought when you were reading that at first that the party was going to present a number of names for the select board to choose from. So that was.
We only have one.
Which they did, and that one name is Daniel Hardigan.
Okay, I didn't know if by statute they had to give you at least, some.
It doesn't say, it just says a list, and a list could be a list of one, right? So.
And I think as far as that minimum maximum is concerned, my understanding is that we are required by statute to appoint a minimum of 3 if so requested.
Right.
So we couldn't deny if they came with 6 people who wanted to be appointed, we could say no, only 3, I think.
Gotcha.
But that's where the minimum maximum comes.
That's how I read this, yeah.
That's what it seems like.
Yeah.
And so does this person, when you say only does election issues, does that mean that they sit in on?
That's a good question. You'd have to ask John Johnson about that.
Well, the BCA meetings, as you know, are open to the public, except for the portion of it that is
deliberative.
But even if they were sitting in, they wouldn't be a deciding.
They wouldn't be a voting member, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, thanks.
This was new to us too. So, so we have a motion on the table. Is anybody online who wants to comment? That's Mr. Hardy. Hi.
I'd like to just address the board.
Go ahead.
That's me, that I applied for the appointment there, and it's all new to me too. But if anybody has any questions or if it can help anybody, I'm on the call. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions for Daniel? Okay. So are there any other comments online? Any other discussion on the board? Any comments in the room? All right, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Welcome
Thank
to the
you
board
for your
of civil
willingness.
authority.
Thank you for your willingness and interest.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the common level of appraisal.
So in your packet, there are 2. So,
there are 2.
yeah, they're both dated December 23rd, but one is an amended.
Yeah,
So,
I don't think anything changed. Oh, I guess the numbers changed.
yeah, the numbers changed. So the
But the percentage
education,
didn't change.
no, the education grand list from 411 changed. So there it is, folks.
Okay, so the common level of appraisal for Putney is officially 82.87%, which is below the 85% upon which we are been or will be mandated. I guess we don't officially get mandated until July 1st, but we know we will be mandated. So it's good that we already
Started the
proactive
process,
on that. Yeah. And if we hadn't been mandated on that, we would have been mandated on the coefficient of dispersion, which is at 21.37, and the maximum on that is 20. So Putney is one of, 165 towns that have been mandated this year.
160 is the number I got out of the paper.
It's okay.
But you're close. It might have gone up in the last 2 days.
And I'm guessing based on those numbers that the time frame for fulfilling the mandate is going to have to be altered, because I can't imagine there's enough organizations. But I do think it speaks to the fact that we're glad that we.
Yeah, I mean, there's other issues as well with the CLA being so low. The state uses the CLA to equalize the amount of funding we'll get from for state education. And it also affects the valuation of the utilities, because those also get equalized with the CLA. So the lower the CLA is, the less money we're going to be entitled to until we can get back up to 100%. And that's across the board of all the towns. So and a lot of towns, the other issue is that a lot of towns just finished appraisals in 2020. And they don't even have the funds to do another one.
Right.
So I just read that Rockingham is planning on doing their own by themselves.
Wow.
Which, more power to them.
Boy, that's a lot of work.
But, so a lot of towns are gonna be stuck in that position. I don't know what the state plans on doing. I haven't heard anything. I've just heard a lot of concern among assessors and listers in the state. This is gonna cause a lot of heartache until it resolves itself.
Which will be a long time.
Yeah. I mean, Brattleboro is not even, they haven't been mandated, but we're not we couldn't get somebody until 2027.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is. And we were lucky to get that.
And you're probably.
Yeah.
So I have 2 comments regarding the CLA. So with a low CLA like this too, towns will face tax increases, and it's beyond our control. So I'm just warning people right now, there's only so much we can do with a budget when it's something like this is out of our control. The other thing too is Larry Slyson is reviewing the contract that the appraiser sent to the town. So we want to make sure all the T's and I's are dotted. The listers did make phone calls to the references that were in that proposal, and for the most part, it was positive. So there were towns in Maine, there were towns in New Hampshire, Massachusetts. Larry's concern was because this company, we're the first Vermont. Right. But overall, it was good. Positive feedback, no problems. So.
I mean, they are, Putney will be among the first towns. I think they also picked up Woodstock. So they're moving into Vermont. They are one of the state approved appraisers. In fact, those are the only ones you can choose from. So they were vetted already by the state. And they have done communities that are similar size to Putney across the border, but still relatively the same system. And I think one of the things that the listers brought up when we were discussing this is that because we are one of the first towns, they have to do a really good job in order to convince the rest of Vermont that they're a good fit. So
one last comment. I mentioned this in a different meeting, and we should talk about it when we get to the budget, but we will be short $15,000 for the reappraisal. So we need to come up with a solution. And just FYI, I mean, this is COVID related, So ARPA funds could cover that 15,000.
Yeah. Okay. When do those funds have to be obligated by? This year?
2024.
It actually works out.
Obligated, yes.
Okay.
Yep, it will work out.
Okay.
As long as the state doesn't keep going down with their payment to the towns.
The reappraisal.
Yeah, because we're just under $10,000 per
So do
year.
you think it's that they've actually reduced the amount or?
They
or
have
just-
since I've been in the front
I
office.
mean, I know the total amount is reduced, but,
It keeps
but
going down a little bit
the
at a
parcels,
time.
because the parcels what it is, we keep getting less parcels.
Right, because they're
So,
combining them.
But I wasn't aware that the actual amount per parcel had gone down.
I don't know about the actual amount. All I know is that our payment to us,
Well, what we need to do is encourage landowners to sell their parcels to other people so that we can uncombine them and get more money.
well, subdivisions are happening, so we'll see.
All right.
So we don't need any
We
action.
don't have.
No action,
It's
that was
just a-
informational.
Okay. It is 7:05 and I think we should take a little break. So we will come back. We'll come back at 7:10. All right, we are reconvening at 7:11. And the next thing on our list is the lister certificate, no appeal or suit pending review and approval. This is something that happens every year. The listers have to basically certify that there are no appeals pending for the grand list, and this page goes into the grand list for that year.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the certificate as presented from the listers for the no appeal or suit pending.
A second?
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded to approve the lister's certificate of no appeal or suit pending. Is there questions or comments among the board? It's
What the heck is
another fun lister thing. It's literally what it says. So in some years, you might have a grievance that has gone through the BCA process up to the state.
Yeah.
It might be a multi-year process, so that is
Nothing
still pending.
Yeah.
And it could, in the end, change the value of the grand list. So this is basically saying, this grand list is the grand list, it's not gonna change.
Okay.
And also, from my perspective, a little bit is just about transparency. So that we're all acknowledging this is the situation. Because if there were a suit, we would want to acknowledge that publicly.
And we did have one like 5 years ago.
Yep. Multi-year one.
Yes.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
That was
So,
the first year.
So they do happen on occasion. So it's been moved and seconded, but we have a motion on the table. Any other discussion on the board? Are there comments there's no more public in the room. Are there comments online? Don't see anybody. So all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. So I checked that off before we actually did it. So the next piece is the Katy Emond
Yep.
support letter for grant funding.
So I drafted up the letter. If somebody would like to read it. It was a request.
Can you read it?
So this is a letter to the State of Vermont Agency of Commerce and Community Development. To whom it may concern, this letter is in support of Pumpkin Patch Child Care Center's application for a community recovery and revitalization program grant. This funding will assist with the development and implementation of a strong business plan for a desirable education center in Putney. A new child care center, teen center, and children's museum and small workspace with a welcome center is ideal. The proposed building was once a regal destination venue with its accessibility location on Interstate 91 corridor. Putney is currently working with the Vermont Council on Rural Development. In the process, the community has identified developing a center as a priority. We also recognize that there is a child care crisis in our county. This application will support revitalization, provide workforce, and revive an area of Putney that has struggled since the close of the Putney Inn destination venue. The town of Putney supports education and early child care goals as outlined in our 2015 town plan. Goal 12, to provide affordable early child care policies. 1.1, ensure that Putney's children enter preschool and kindergarten ready to succeed. 1.2, encourage the provision of quality child care services and facilities to meet the needs of the area residents, workforce, and employers. 1.3, encourage community programs to collaborate with child care providers to expand the educational experiences of the children. 1.4, support Putney Family Services and other local agencies' efforts to increase the availability and affordability of child care. Priorities for action. 1.1, identify the supply and demand for child care in Putney. 1.2, identify opportunities in Putney for child care providers to enhance their programs. We endorse Pumpkin Patch Child Care Center with this application submission. Thank you for considering their request for a community recovery and revitalization program grant. Respectfully, Town of Putney, Eileen Chu, Select Board Chair. Darren Astley, Town Manager.
Okay. Do we want to make a motion then discuss, or?
Make a motion that we approve this letter in support of the application to the Agency of Commerce and Community Development.
For a second? It's been moved and seconded to approve letter of recommendation to, what did you find? The Community Recovery and Violation Program grant. Discussion?
So this is part of the process. Part of certain applications, you have to have a letter of support. So Next Stage did request a letter from me for the same program. I just got that request today.
We've given letters to multiple agencies in the past.
Yes.
So my question would be, this is not a known entity to me. Is this, I don't personally know Katy, but I trust her and know she is a respected member of the community. Do we want to, my general sense is that we, as the select board, would generally endorse anybody who's looking to find grant money for something that could benefit the town. I don't feel like I know enough about what she's trying to do in order to say necessarily that I would endorse that. Can you elaborate or not?
All I can say is that I've been in conversation with Katy for several months now. She has been looking for a location to open up. She has a solid business plan too. She's been working with Brattleboro Development.
BDCC.
Yes. Yeah. So she has a solid business plan. I've seen it. So she is very eager to get this going.
Is this an existing organization?
It's a new registered,
Child
yes.
Care Center?
Yes. So.
And it does it have a location currently, or?
Right now she's at the school doing after school.
Oh, okay.
So whether or not that's part of this, I think this is that's gonna evolve into this and be her biggest stopper is a location big enough to, have what she's looking to do.
So this would be not the Putney in itself, but
it's the restaurant. It's the restaurant building. She's already talked to the owner down there.
Okay.
So
they've already, it's, on the face of it, that's a great location for such a thing.
Yes.
They've already got the parking. Filling up that front part of the parking lot would probably bring more business to the inn, because I know a lot of people assume it's closed.
Right.
I'll tell you firsthand, it's not closed. We stayed there on the night that we didn't have power, when it got down to 6 degrees. So they are in fact open, but it doesn't look good. That parking lot is empty, and there's no open signs or anything like that. So activity there.
Right.
would be good.
And just to clarify, the inn is in fact the building you're talking about that includes the restaurant. The hotel portion is, so, I mean, the original inn is the one where the restaurant is.
Correct, correct.
So that's the space that she's.
That is the space.
Yeah.
And I don't know if she's gonna, I don't know what her arrangement is with the owner. I don't know if she's gonna take up the entire first floor. I mean, it's a large building.
It is a very large building.
So this is an opportunity, for her to possibly have funding to get started.
I'm a little confused because the priorities listed here don't seem to match with what you're describing or what I understand, which is very limited. I'm kind of like you, the project to be. And as she explains it in paragraph 1, it seems like she's interested in childcare and a teen center and a children's museum and a workspace, right?
Well,
but the priorities for action for this grant are just to identify the needs for childcare in Putney?
No, that's come out of our town plan, Peg. So our town plan specifies these goals and priorities. Yes,
okay.
Yes.
That was not clear to me at all. I thought her priorities for this grant. That's why I was very confused.
No, that all came out of our town plan. And just so the board knows, Wyndham Regional Commission also wrote a support letter for her business plan.
Okay.
So my only concern would be, does this align with the VCRD work that we're doing? And what's the deadline on this application, do you know?
I don't know, but
if it's not imminent, I would love to have Katy come in and talk to us about it, because
Can I just say something? So we have a childcare crisis, and we have somebody that's willing to, go the extra mile. She's been wanting to put something in Putney, and this is just a letter. We don't even know if she's going to get this grant. The priority with VCRD, the childcare it didn't make the top 3, but it's still a priority to families in Putney and surrounding towns. I mean, there's an opportunity and somebody's willing. She's got a solid business plan. If you want to talk to her, we can have her come in next week. I just don't know when, the application is due.
Yeah, I personally don't have a problem writing a letter of recommendation for somebody to pursue grant money.
Right.
If she was coming to the town to ask for money for us, I would definitely want
Right, it'd be different.
to see her business plan. I want to see
Yes.
it. But I don't have a problem signing off on something, especially since you've been working with her and been having conversations with her. I knew of this sort of as a rumor. I didn't know, I was trying to figure out where she was gonna put this thing.
Right.
Now that I know, it makes perfect sense to me. I don't know her personally, and I just saw rumors on Facebook that somebody had something going on in the works.
I think she was trying with the old rectory building as well, and that fell through.
Right.
So this is their next.
It's been
ongoing. She's been involved in this quite a bit.
Yeah. And just to be clear, I'm not opposed to this.
Right.
I feel like I typically know quite a bit more about an organization before we sign on to embrace. And I'm not arguing against it. I just this would be unusual for me to approve a letter of support of an organization that I really just heard about, and not that we didn't have this package
Right.
but I'm just not familiar with it, so I'm
Yeah.
just asking questions.
Yeah.
Your endorsement of it, and I fully understand the interest in having childcare, et cetera. I can't say that I have previously supported something like this without knowing more about it. So that's why I asked.
Question, is this Pumpkin Patch Child Care Center an existing entity? Is it a 501c3? I mean, what is it?
Yeah.
And
I don't have the
Or is
information.
it just a proposal?
That's what I asked before. I don't know either. So, I mean,
It
this is,
sounded like it's an existing entity, but she may not have a location yet, but she
Right.
is working with the school.
Right.
So she's in business.
And here's the thing too, because she wouldn't be able to have a support letter and go after an application unless
if she didn't have.
Right. She's a nonprofit.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted, from my own information,
Yes.
like Josh, if we're gonna vote on something, it might be useful. I mean, and also, who is she? What's her name?
Katy.
Emond. She lives up on, she lives up
On
on
Banning Road.
Yeah.
Okay.
Banning Road.
So was there other questions on the board? Sounded like you were leaning towards tabling it, but I guess I'm leaning towards voting on it, and if you don't feel comfortable.
If there's a time frame, I don't know when it's due.
I don't know if I can look it up. Hold on a moment.
Yeah, oh yeah, maybe they did it online.
Yeah, I was online, but
Let's see. Who's the grant? Community Recovery.
Community Recovery and Revitalization Program.
it's a COVID grant too.
And if it's competitive, submitting earlier might be better. I don't,
She's already 2 weeks behind, so
2 weeks behind in submitting it?
yeah, she was ill.
But next stage is just coming through now too.
I know. So
But 2 weeks behind on the deadline or 2 weeks behind on what she was hoping to do?
to get the whole package together. That's why we get the request late too. Yeah, it's like Governor Scott's program.
Oh no, I guess I'm not online.
I'm surprised Howard hasn't gotten me a date yet. Where is it? Project eligibility. This is very extensive grant too. Like the process is just, and it has to all be done online too. She sent me to it and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going there.
You're finding it, Karen.
I'm not seeing any date, so
Alright.
I would recommend supporting. But you can all vote either way.
We already moved it.
We
have
did,
a motion and a second.
we have a motion and a second, yes we do.
Is this grant competitive? Or-
Sounds
Yes.
like it would already have
Yeah.
the next stage coming after it too.
Yeah.
Oh, in other words, next stage is putting in their own effort here.
Yes.
And next stage is, and it's not in our packet, so I guess we can
Okay.
discuss it, but.
So eligible nonprofit has to meet following criteria.
Okay.
So it is a nonprofit tax exempt organization. It is located in the state of Vermont and is undertaken an eligible project in an impacted industry, childcare or affordable housing. So, I can look up whether or not she's registered. I'm sure she is.
Yeah, no, I don't,
Yeah.
I don't question her, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a date when it's
Just
due
unusual.
on this page. Which is weird.
So while we wait, is there public comment online on this? Okay. I mean, what's the sense of the board? Do we feel comfortable voting on this tonight?
I feel comfortable.
Okay.
Yeah, I am.
Okay. I think I am too, so that's the majority of us, so. So if there's no further discussion on.
She's actually logged on in just a second.
Oh,
She is.
she is?
Okay. So the answer.
Hi, sorry.
Oh, thank you, Katy. Thank you for coming to our meeting. So can you explain your project a little bit to us?
Yeah, do you guys have, I'm really sorry, Josh just yelled at me that you guys had questions, so I ran over and jumped on. He's right there. Oh, yeah. Can you guys, would you be willing to, can I share my screen? Is that something I can do?
That would be a technical question.
I think.
The host would have to enable it.
All right, hold on a moment. I almost lost you. Holy cow.
Don't end the meeting.
So much pressure.
Lily, that's you sharing your screen.
No,
I think you have to go to the members, her name, maybe,
really?
and then give.
If you go to participants, you should be able to just make her a co-host, and then that might be the simplest way to do it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Swift. All right, hold on a minute.
You want some backseat Zoom drivers? Go back to the participant list.
We can add in the peanut gallery.
Right click on. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Make co-host.
Make co-host, yeah.
You're on, Katy.
All right.
Okay.
Hi. So what I can do is I can share with you, I met with the community center board today and I gave them an overview of the project. And I'd be happy to do that for you guys if that's a good use of your time. But I certainly don't want to hijack your meeting and if that's not on the agenda. So
well, your grant letter is on the agenda, so and some board members had some questions, so I think it's a good use of our time.
Well, in that case, I will go ahead and share with you where we're at with this project. So this is kind of the Putney Center, which is this vision and overview that I've been working on for the past 8 months. And just hide some things. So basically, I'm going to be working with the Putney Inn and occupying their former restaurant building, and the 10,000 square foot space is going to house a variety of services. The first 3 years of operation, we focused on establishing the various programs and services while a permanent structure is financed and constructed. The permanent structure would house the center's current programs, as well as include an indoor aquatic center, fitness center, and community function rooms. And it would also be the potential hub of an official parks and recreation center for Putney, which is, I know, a vision of Karen's that she and I have discussed before and kind of hoped to see down the road. That's the kind of future hypothetical. But to start with, can I just get a show of hands? How many of you have been in the restaurant space and are familiar with the space itself?
Yeah.
I mean, it's been closed a while, but okay. Because you kind of have to envision this. I'm just going to walk you through. And if you can picture the space in your mind, it makes it easier. So when you first walk into the building, the foyer area will act as a mini welcome center for Putney. It'll include maps, business snapshots, and advertisements for upcoming events in and around Putney. Volunteers will be available to answer questions and possibly even run a small store featuring products from local farms and artisans to help support the local businesses. This would be a nonprofit piece to help support Putney. So long-term sustainability, I would be working with Next Stage as the 501c3 fiscal agent for this part of the center. The pumpkin patch would be the child care center. And if you go through the foyer, there's like a sitting area, or there's a small area that would be used as the coat room and cubby area, and it would lead to the child care center. Space behind the hotel has been allocated to add a fenced-in playground area for the child care center to access. This is a multi-age co-op model that will provide affordable childcare for families in Brattleboro, Putney, Bellows Falls, Dummerston, and Westminster. It's a for-profit business, so long-term sustainability would really be reliant on a consistent customer base. In addition, we'd house a children's museum. So attached to the child care center, we would have a children's museum. The space would be accessible to the child care center during the day and then available to the public in the afternoon and on weekends. The museum will consist of a variety of miniaturized play areas based on local Putney businesses. From a mini general store to a pint-sized co-op, the Children's Museum will help support local businesses through play while also providing a valuable resource for parents and children in the area. This is also a nonprofit piece, so long-term sustainability would go through the Putney Community Center, who I approached today about acting as fiscal agent to keep that element of the center running. At the back of the building, accessible through the rear exit, there'd be a teen center equipped with snacks, games tables, and other teen-related activities. This center would also employ a part-time youth coordinator. The coordinator would not only supervise teens accessing the center, but would also work with teens to schedule functions, events, and activities that appeal to young people. The youth coordinator's office would be located within the teen center portion of the building. Long-term sustainability of the teen center would be managed by Putney Community Cares. I've met with Ruby and we've talked about the steps we would need to approach the board about taking on this piece of the center. But this is something that's come up time and time again. We have a lot of problems in Putney with vandalism and youth gone wild because they don't have a place or an outlet. So this would provide both a valuable resource for teens as well as the community. Through the foyer and upstairs, the center will also have several offices with a shared community workspace. This space would also house the executive director's office, that would be me. Community members can rent one of the 4 to 5 workspaces for as little as 1 day a week to 5 days a week, depending on their needs and availability of the space. Again, this was something that was sussed out through VCRD forums that several of our members of Putney feel isolated in their working at home and would like to have access to a shared workspace. The space could be adopted by an additional nonprofit organization, maybe the Historical Society, or it could be considered a for-profit business. Essentially, though, it would really be renting space in the building. The goals for the first 3 years would be to establish businesses and services offered by the center, set protocols, etc. Explore expansion opportunities to encompass parks and recreation. Acquire funding to finance land purchase and construction of a larger permanent structure to move into at least end so that we can also offer aquatic center, fitness center, etc. Determine ownership of a new building as well as finance structures moving forward. Will Aquatic Center be able to finance the Children's Museum, Welcome Center, and Teen Center long-term through its profits, or would we need to continue to work through nonprofits? My long-term vision is that whatever this final iteration of the building would be, is that it would be town-owned and it would be our own opportunity to provide valuable services without going with a commercial, a more commercial nationwide provider like a YMCA or, a Planet Fitness or, things like that. It would be unique to Putney and it would be town-owned and operated. So I went really quickly through that, trying to be mindful of just jumping into your meeting. But if you have questions, I'm happy to slow down or clarify or answer any questions you have.
I guess the question I have is, so this grant letter, well, first of all, what's the deadline for the grant?
Early submissions were due on the 29th. But they are going to continue accepting submissions until the money is spent, and they're still prioritizing childcare as a need that they're focusing on for the grant.
Okay, so sooner is better, probably.
Sooner is better, yeah.
This portion of the grant, I guess the portion that this grant is focusing on is the child care piece.
No, the grant, I am utilizing the child care piece because I am applying for it as a for-profit business because I am including a for-profit business. The purpose of this grant would be to, if awarded the full amount, we would be able to open all of these aspects all of these services within the community center, and it would be free to the community for the first 3 years. We would have a fully funded teen center, a fully funded welcome center. We would have it would get the childcare up and running. We wouldn't offer childcare for free, but we could offer it at an extremely reduced rate for families in need, and it would fund the welcome center. So all of those things would be paid for, and we wouldn't have to worry about necessarily finding other grants and ways to pay for them while we get those structures in place. Does that make sense?
What is the amount of the grant that you're pursuing?
Businesses are allowed to apply for up to $1 million. There's $40 million that's being allocated. However, you have to provide funding for 30% of the project. So I've applied for $700,000 and I'm looking at reaching out to other resources to try to acquire the other $300,000.
Okay.
I'm just, this sounds amazing. I'm super impressed and I'm really glad you came on because it's unusual for us to have something like this in front of us without knowing more. So I'm really glad you were able to give that to us. I'm just curious, what exactly do you mean when you say an aquatic center? Irrelevant to I'm thrilled to vote on this, but I'm interested in what an aquatic center is.
So that's a great question. So again, long-term vision is we would have an aquatic center is basically an indoor pool, splash pad, and resource. My dream is that, we have an aging population in Putney who would benefit from aquatherapy, aqua aerobics, PT, and having access to an indoor pool year round would provide that. We have children. I'm a swim teacher. I've been a swim teacher for 25 years, and I am stretched so thin because we don't have facilities to train swim instructors, to train lifeguards, or to get lessons for kids, which is a valuable life-saving skill. So an aquatic center would essentially have, they come in all shapes and sizes. I would imagine that Putney wouldn't need something that you would see up in West Leb. Like we wouldn't need a giant center, but I would imagine ideally at least a lap pool and perhaps a small splash pad and child swimming area. Because the overall vision here is that this center can draw from Putney, it can draw from Westminster and Dummerston, but it can also draw from Bellows Falls, from Brattleboro. There are not a lot of resources. You've got the Y in Keene, you've got the Colonial in Brattleboro, and you've got Edgar May up in Springfield. And all of them are pricey. They don't all offer, you have to have the means, the transportation means and the funding to pay for lessons and things at those places. And you have to drive quite a distance. And I think that this opportunity to have the community center and have this as a feature, if you're a parent or you have young children, if you can imagine a place where I can go and I can drop my kids off in childcare and I'm going to go swim some laps, or I'm going to go use the fitness center or take a yoga class, and my kids are going to be cared for, or, my teenager, I'm going to drop them off. They can go to the teen center and I'm going to go swimming, or I'm going to drop my kids at their swim class and I'm going to go have a cup of coffee, in the coffee shop or whatever, business we're highlighting that week and that we have focus on. So that's kind of like the big vision, big pie in the sky dream down the road to then be able to transport, because the building, I'm going to be very frank, the Putney Inn is an expensive rental. It's long-term sustainability to rent that space. It isn't viable for when you're looking at so many nonprofit organizations in one place. So, for Putney to have its own building with those resources and then be in control of how much revenue they need to generate in order to maintain that building. An aquatic center can bring in a lot of revenue. They're expensive to build, but if they brought in enough revenue that they could then support our nonprofits, it'd be a pretty incredible opportunity.
Okay, thank you. I do have some comments online. Heather?
Hi. Definitely not, to weigh in on what the vote one way or another. What struck me was the curiosity of the safety and security of children with transient people stopping at a visitor center, with teenagers, with people in and out all the time. That was just a major concern that struck for me.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the CDD, the Center for the Child Development Division, has really strict guidelines about that. The Child Care Center would not be accessible so it has to be actually locked in its own area, just as any child care center. If you went into, I don't know, like a strip mall that had like, or if you can imagine like where the kids' place was in Brattleboro. So there's really strict guidelines. So that a childcare center wouldn't be accessible from the teen center, nor would it be accessible from the welcome center. The welcome center would remain in the foyer area, and it would be just like any other place you went where there was a check-in to get to where you needed to go. I don't know if that answers that question or speaks to that question.
Heather, did you have any other questions?
Nope, that was it. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Fairman?
Madam Chair, I've been interested in how this discussion has evolved. Initially, I understood that everyone was talking about childcare. Now it seems that the principal is talking about a town-owned and eventually town-owned aquatic center, pardon me, entailing a total investment of about $1 million, of which a $300,000 state grant. Now that is a very, very significant project. Now, I'm not speaking in opposition. I'll simply offer these two observations. The first one is for $300,000, the principal qualifications and business plan and so on will be scrutinized by some agency of the state of Vermont, and they will ascertain whether she has the necessary skills, background, and plan to pull this off. But therefore, you know, you're supporting the grant. It seems to me, as long as you make it clear that you are not approving the project per se, you know, it could benefit Putney if it can be pulled off. But really, this is a very ambitious project. And in terms of it eventually becoming a town owned, at that point, it would also become a town expense, reliant upon upon the revenues it can earn to offset the operating costs, and the balance would be taxpayers' responsibility, which of course could turn out to be a very large obligation. So I return to, given the amount of money involved, I was thinking it might have been a few $1,000s, but at $300K, the state of Vermont is going to look at this very carefully, and they will do much more than you can do, or I as a kibitzer can do to validate this project. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, we were lucky to get Katy to come on to talk about the project, the larger vision, just because we were presented with this with not very much information. Now we have a lot of information, but the motion that we do have on the table is simply about approving a letter of support for Katy to go after this grant. So the rest of the project is in the future, and I totally agree that we don't want to approve it carte blanche, but I think we're clear on that. We're just approving a letter of support.
Yeah, and just to be clear, the grant amount has nothing to do with a future aquatic center or a future building owned by Putney. That's a long-term goal, but that will require a task force, that will require community members to come together and you know, plan that out. This grant is specifically for the 3-year budget plan of this Putney Community Center, which would house childcare, teen care, and the Children's Museum and the other aspects I talked about in the presentation.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other discussion among the board or any more questions to Katy? Mr. Fairman?
Madam Chair, it occurred to me, being a native of Springfield, I am familiar with the origin of the Edgar May Center there. That was financed by some of the money that the town of Springfield received from the state of Vermont, which was a total of $18 million in exchange for agreeing to host the Southern Vermont Regional Correctional Center. So it was a state money that funded that. But as a quid pro quo for hosting the prison, which was a very, very controversial issue in Springfield, and was rejected by, let me see, Putney and Rockingham, and it seems to be another town as well. Thanks.
Okay, good to know. So maybe we do want one after all. Is there any other discussion among the board on this? Are we ready to vote? Okay. So all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. So thank you for coming on at short notice.
Thank you, Katy.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate the support.
All right. Okay, so the next thing is the proposed budgets. It is getting close to 8 o'clock, so and we are talking about having a meeting next week. So do we want to talk about this, or do we want to table it till next week?
Table it.
I've got a question there, Eileen, on that, in terms of the scope of our discussion of the budget. On the agenda, it indicates that the library, highway, sewer, and water budgets that are here are final. Does that mean that's the ball game, or
No.
where? I didn't think so.
So they're not finals. In my mind, they're final. I'm
Okay,
comfortable with
okay,
that.
Okay.
And then,
So, but we're gonna vote on all 5.
well, you're gonna, yeah, well, you're not voting on the general fund because it's not ready.
No, but are we gonna vote tonight on the 4? Or are we gonna wait till next week?
Well, I think that's the question. Do we want to talk about
next week?
Okay. I think that there is such a thing as consensus by being tired. So I don't wanna rush through the budgets.
I don't either.
So why don't we table this
Yeah,
discussion
that's
until
fine.
next week? We'll have a special meeting.
Can I just get your question though, Charlie? Once we approve them, they are final.
Oh, yeah, that's what I thought.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
Oh,
once
yeah.
we
I
vote
saw
on
final,
them,
I
okay.
thought, well.
Final until they go to town meeting,
Yeah.
and then town
Okay.
meeting obviously.
Right, they're final, that, what we approve is what goes into the town report.
Right.
Correct.
So,
And so basically, you're good with
The ones
the ones
that
that say
say final,
Okay.
yes.
So question, are there other things that are not the budgets, if we table the budget items, are there any of these other things we can get through, the landmark letter or whatever that select board
Yeah,
unfinished business was?
yeah.
Yeah, I think we can get through the rest of it.
Can I also,
Turn to a pumpkin?
No, I'm good, that's what
can I make a suggestion that for next week, at least as far as library, sewer, water, and highway, because we've already reviewed all those, that we would do that potentially by a consent agenda, just clump them together and approve. I mean, I'm not saying we have to.
We can do that.
We have to do that, but I think
Just to get.
we should all keep in mind that when we come here next week,
just
be ready to vote. Exactly.
Yes.
So,
But does that mean if we have questions during our week?
you can ask Karen, but we can also, not that you wouldn't be able to ask questions, but the assumption is that we will vote on those and be done.
Oh, right.
I mean, a true
Yeah.
consent agenda,
You
we
don't.
would just vote on it and we wouldn't ask any questions. Otherwise, we'd have to pull it back out and put it at the end of the agenda or something like that.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
but yeah, if we can.
So maybe
make
not
it-
technically by a consent agenda.
I
but,
understand,
yeah.
right. So if we can all agree to go through the budgets and
Yeah.
pull any questions that we have and maybe ask, Karen during the week,
Yeah, okay, that's
and then we can.
all I was asking.
Is the general fund gonna be done for next week?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Alright.
trying to tweak that a little more.
Okay, all right. So we're going to table that piece. This next one is the second quarter budget reports.
So in your packets, you have, so it's half year. What I've done for you, the first 2 pages, so general fund and water department, at the top it states over budget. So instead of going through each budget, these 2 sheets tell you what's already over budget in any particular
What are we looking at?
budget.
Yeah, where are we?
It's I can't tell you which page it really is, but it says Town of Putney, General Ledger,
It's the boundary.
and then it says Budget
Is it at
Status
the end?
Report over budget.
You're farther down.
There's two of them sort of.
Go to the landmark letter.
It's almost there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is why we're just gonna wait on budget.
Okay.
It's just two, it's
Okay,
just two
got it.
pages back.
Yep.
Got it. Yeah, I got
And
it.
the one before.
So over budget,
Okay.
okay? So just circle
I
that,
will.
Shirley.
Okay, thanks.
So I'm just gonna stand here for a moment. So on that first page that says over budget, so you have revenues in the general fund, which is 100. And then you have expenditures, which is the general fund, 100. And then your next line is materials, which is in the highway department. But if you look at the titles, you can see which budget they come out of. So this is, 102 is library.
Wait, I'm not there. I'm lost.
Sorry.
I just want to see what I'm looking for. Okay, general fund.
I'm gonna have to start highlighting stuff for you.
Yeah, that would be really helpful.
What's current year? So you're
Oh, okay.
okay. So
Eric led me astray.
Eric, shame on you. Are you with us, Eric?
No.
Look like this. It should say.
There's too many numbers. Yes.
Too many pages of numbers.
It's
Okay,
in
got it.
Yeah.
All right, I'm ready to pay attention.
I got it.
Yes.
So Eric, I
But
think
there's
the one.
there's two pages here.
Yeah, go back one more.
There you go.
There you go.
We're still over budget. There we go.
All right. So,
Bottom line, we're over budget.
so revenues, expenditures, this is general fund. And then this is the highway fund.
Okay.
And then you have library. And then the second page is water. So those are the items that are over budget at the moment.
Okay.
All right, halfway through the budget year,
Second quarter, yes, okay.
second quarter.
Yep.
There's more detail in the following pages. If you want to see like specific departments, then you can go to those departments.
Dig down, so the next pieces are
Yeah.
are the line items, okay?
So what I want to just mention to the select board, so when you're looking at like a budget, whether it's current year, or, you know, whatever you're looking at, you can look at each line item, but the bottom line is like the bottom line. That's what I look at.
Yeah,
Yep.
So if
that's
you,
the bottom line.
right, if you,
Bottom line, in fact.
so on page 6 of the general fund, at the very bottom, it says total expenditures, we're at 62.28%, okay? So that's a little over half, you know. I'm not concerned about it right now.
Page 6 of the general fund comparative budget report. Page 6 of 12.
In the current
6 of
year.
12 or 6 of 7?
You gotta be in the current year, Josh, I don't know.
Okay, you're in,
Yeah,
this is comparative budget.
yeah, you're in
Oh, I see.
the
Okay, so
proposed
which is
budget.
after these guys?
Did you
Yeah,
find?
general fund.
Yes.
We're on 6 of 7, right?
6 of 7,
Yeah,
yes.
there you go.
Yeah, so at the very bottom,
Yeah.
so it says 62.28%, so it's a
You have a page?
little high, but not
Page
alarming.
7.
Yeah,
It'll be on the left side.
Yep, got it.
okay. Sorry, Karen, what?
No, that's, so it's a little high, but it's not alarming. And I can tell you, some of the overage is because of the VCRD process. So like the mailing was over, and then we had to put on that dinner.
Yeah.
Flags put us over too, because we purchased the flags.
Okay.
But, you know, they're little things. But if you go through these reports, you can see department by department. So what you have here is general fund, which is town management, it's the fire department, it's like all our boards and commissions. And then the highway department is separate. The library is also separate. And then water and sewer.
Okay.
But I'm not alarmed right now. And I will let the board know that I did send a memo out to all the department heads. If they can conserve, like even on energy, conserve it. And anything over $1,500 purchase, they have to get approval from me.
Okay.
Moving forward.
For the next half.
And a couple of things that fall into, just a couple of things I notice.
Yeah.
Is that some of these are first half of year expenses regardless. So if they're over, we're not going to keep adding to the overage on them. For example, pool swimming refunds, pool labor, et cetera.
Yeah.
We're not going to have any more of that due until, well, pool.
June.
Exactly.
June. The pool is a concern.
Yeah, so
because we are going to be over. We are going to be over.
But then also, like, social service agencies are in here.
Yeah.
But it's only over by $1 on a $54,000 budget.
Right.
So you know it's listed here, but you have to sort of tease out the details to think about how.
Are you looking now at the over,
Yes.
over budget?
Yeah. Sorry, I bounced back.
Yeah, that's okay.
So if it's 100% already spent, that means it's like a one-time.
It's
payment.
paid. Yeah. Exactly.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
But again, the reason they're, so why, for example, is the FRCW, which I'm not sure what that is.
So that is expenses for consultant, which we have a grant for. So there was no budget for that.
Okay, so that's why it's in the over budget.
That is
as
correct.
opposed to things that were budgeted for and went over budget.
That is correct.
Right, okay.
Right, like printing, for instance, and that's because of the VCRD stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
And postage.
Right, but some of that was budgeted, but we went over budget.
Right. So what we'll be conscientious moving forward, but most of the time we can justify overages. But I'm trying to recoup what we lost last year. I know it's unrealistic, but I'd rather have a surplus than be in a negative like we were in 22. And we have time to come out of this, but it's not going to be easy.
Right.
This year or next year.
It is what it is, I guess.
It is what it is, and I understand that, but I still.
That doesn't make it any easier to swallow.
No.
It's just.
No, and there's so many things that affect taxes. Budget is one, which, sometimes we have control over that, but just because it's in the budget doesn't necessarily mean we have to spend it either.
Right.
So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's hard not to most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, is there public comments online on the second quarter budget reports? Further questions, discussion from the board? We don't have to take action on this, just informational. So let's move on to the town meeting items. That's under select board unfinished business.
Yeah, what was I gonna do? Well, it's kind of related to, the general fund budget for 24.
Do you want to table that too?
Yeah, I think we're gonna table that.
All right, so we're tabling that. We'll take that up next week. Other business, closing comments, the Landmark College letter. I can read this. So we got a letter from Landmark College. Ladies and gentlemen, we at Landmark are pleased to provide this voluntary contribution of $39,000 to to the town of Putney for the year 2022. Additionally, Landmark continues to pay taxes on a number of properties we own in town. Members of the Landmark College community strive to give back to their adopted home. Students have been members of the fire company and other civic organizations. Our students and staff give tens of thousands of dollars each year to the Putney Food Shelf. One of our students, Martha Meggs, even centered her capstone project around community service in Putney and the greater Windham County area by coordinating a group of knitters to produce a large quantity of winter hats that were distributed to those in need. We at Landmark are thankful for the support of the town officials and all Putney citizens. Please consider sharing this information with other Putney residents. Sincerely, Peter A. Eden, President. So that's a contribution towards their taxes or in lieu of taxes? Is that...
No, it's for the public safety reimbursement.
Oh, okay.
And that's it. He's falling asleep over there.
Don't worry, we'll be done soon.
And it's just important to note, some people refer to it as in lieu of taxes. Technically, it's not a donation, and that's an important distinction. But it is a donation that's made every year by Landmark as well as the other educational ones. Not all in the same amount.
No.
But they all
contribute.
Those.
Okay. Anybody have any comments on the letter? So thank you, Landmark, for the contribution. Are there any comments online on the letter, the Landmark College letter? Doesn't look like it.
No.
Okay, so moving on, do we need an executive session?
No.
Sorry, since we're in that, I wanted to make a comment.
Sorry, I moved too fast.
No, that's okay. Karen asked, and I just wanted to be perfectly clear. When we were having our audit discussion, I brought up the topic of whether we should speak to the auditor separately in absence of the town manager. That was by no means to implicate that there was anything that I was concerned about. It's common practice and often thought of as best practice for that to occur, just in case there's anything that's not clear that should be brought up outside of executive or outside of that discussion in an executive session. I didn't have any concerns at all. The auditors didn't imply that they had any concerns at all, so I just wanted to be perfectly clear about that. That was only, and I would suggest going forward, I've been on a number of audit committees for other entities, and it's just common practice to have that opportunity in case anybody wants to bring something up that they didn't want to bring up in public. So,
right.
But I didn't have anything that I was worried about, and certainly wasn't implying that there was anything we needed to be worried about. It's just
for the record, I didn't take it that way. I took it as a point of information that I was not aware of.
Yeah.
But that's good to note in public. Mr. Fairman?
Madam Chair, two brief follow-ups to what I said earlier. First, regarding the letter of support to the grant, I misspoke earlier when I spoke of $300,000. That is the balance to be raised. The grant is actually for $700,000, $750,000. In other words, in Putney, this is a really, really big deal.
Yeah.
The other point is regarding Abundant Sun. I was able to do the research on that. Abundant Sun is, and I have verified this with the Office of the Secretary of State, is a limited liability corporation registered in the state of Vermont.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I kind of skipped over closing comments. So I'm going to back up again and ask if the select board has any other closing comments. Does anybody online have any other closing comments?
I just wish Mr. Fairman could be a little more timely in how he brings these things up.
I know.
If you could solve things a little quicker for us, it would be appreciated.
Yeah.
All in jest, Mr. Fairman. Thank you very much.
No, thank you for the information.
I'm working as fast as I can.
It's appreciated.
All right, so hearing no other comments, we don't need an executive session.
No.
Is that right? The 18th? Yeah, I guess it is. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I just.
So next week is 18th.
All right, so, the next meeting date is, January 18th, 2023. That's a special meeting. Are we having it, are we having BCTV here or are we?
I haven't decided about that. We can, because.
I guess we don't have to warn that until.
It's a public meeting one way or the other.
I know, but if we're gonna have it as a hybrid.
24.
In the morning.
Oh, I see what
24
you're
hours.
saying.
Yeah.
24 hours, okay.
But I'll do it on Monday anyway,
Okay.
because we need to
Okay, so.
get the budgets and the warning together.
Right. Okay, so that's the next meeting, that's a special meeting, and then January 25th, 2023 is our regularly scheduled meeting, and that will be a hybrid meeting and here. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? All right. Thank you, everybody.